all, my name is Charlene Nadalin. I am the founder and president of Amintro, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all this afternoon for what is to be sure to be an engaging conversation and informative. It always is for me and for many of our prior attendees. Senior living, not in a million years. We get all sorts of input and questions and hear things from our members and in the line of work that Amintro was in. And so I'm thrilled to be presenting this webinar opportunity today. And just want to quickly tell you a little bit about the agenda. Pretty straightforward. Amanda Richards and I are going to be having a conversation for about 45 minutes. I've already warned her that we've got a bunch of questions lined up for her. She's game to answer them. And then the last 15 minutes of our hour together will be for Q&A. So as we go along in conversation, if anything strikes you, please put your questions or commentary in the chat, and I will relay them to Amanda in the last final 15 minutes or so. And so we've all seen Amanda's impressive bio in the event listing, and of course the emails that went out leading up to today's webinar. But I thought what we would do is I'd start by hearing from Amanda herself what her role is, what it entails at Chartwell.
Thanks, Charlene. I'm so happy to be participating with you in another Amintro event. We always have such great conversations. And so no hard questions, please, just the easy ones today. I'm just kidding. Ask me whatever you want. Ask me whatever you want. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. As Charlene mentioned, I'm with Chartwell Retirement Residences. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development and Community Integration. And what that means in a nutshell is that I have the pleasure of going out and talking to professional audiences and potential prospects and their families about Chartwell and about what retirement living is and everything that it encompasses. And sort of, I spend a good deal of my time demystifying what retirement actually is and how it can benefit both businesses and professionals and families, of course, and residents. I've been in this industry now since I graduated from university a few years ago. So this is my 18th year in senior living. I've worked for a number of fantastic providers in the Canadian senior living landscape. I have my background in operations management and then sales management. And in the last few years, well, the last 12 years, I've been with Chartwell, and in the last 5 in this role. So I'm bringing with you all of my experiences in senior living and the knowledge that I've acquired throughout the last 18 years in the hopes of answering any questions that you have today.
Well, I would say that our use of describing you as an expert was no stretch from reality. We're thrilled to honestly so thrilled to have you because you provide such incredible insight. And so I'm going to get started with a subject that is near and dear to our hearts at Amintro, which is lifestyle and social life in retirement residences. So what we hear, from time to time is it's either, retirement living, retirement residence is boring, or it's the polar opposite. And it's like, there's so many activities lined up and structured that it's like, summer camp. So it's from one extreme to the other. And, what is the truth? What is the reality when it comes to, socializing and keeping busy and that sort of thing?
Life in a residence, right?
Yeah.
I think the best way I could describe this is it's a continuation of what you've always found to be interesting or your own social life. So if you were someone who was really outgoing and you always had a packed social schedule and you wanted to be busy all the time and try new things and new activities, well, there's opportunity to do that. No one's forcing you to do that. It's not quite like summer camp where they say, okay, everybody, we're going to do, all these things and you have to participate. There's no obligation to participate in the activities that happen in a retirement residence, but there's the option. and certainly the encouragement if you want to participate. On the flip side, I hope a home's not boring. Some people would say that it's boring, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think it is what you make of it. So there's always lots of choices for activities. There's lots of choices for socialization, formal or informal, right? Sometimes things are structured on a calendar. Sometimes it's those friendships that you form or friendships that you have with residents, and you're able to enjoy each other's company and go do something together, or take in a movie, or go to someone's suite and play some cards, or go do some gardening together. The socialization is up to the individual resident. It doesn't have to be prescribed, but there's certainly lots of choices for those who want to be very active.
I think, I love, so continuation of what you loved, wonderful, and options, plentiful. But it truly comes down to what you make of it. Yeah. So your residences are in charge of their lives and choose how they want to lead it, regardless of the day and the location and so forth, right? Which is powerful, right? Maintaining those choices and control of those decisions. So activities and socializing brings me to alcohol and having cocktails and socializing with your friends. For those that care to. What's the reality, the rules with regards to alcohol consumption, that sort of thing?
I think that's such an interesting question, because we hear this all the time. Oh, I don't want to move to a retirement residence. You're not allowed to drink there. I don't know about you, but I'm not moving to a retirement residence where I can't have a glass of wine with dinner and a few cocktails with my friends. It's the freedom of choice. And retirement residences are independent residences. Our residents are still making informed decisions as adults as to what they want to consume and when. So if they want to have alcohol in their suites, they can absolutely do so. If they, a lot of residences have wine with dinner, or the option to bring a bottle of wine to dinner. Some homes even have wine cellars that store resident wine independently. You can rent out a little space. We've got a number of these homes that have wine cellars in them. There's also the happy hours, right? A lot of retirement homes have social hours or happy hours where you can purchase a cocktail, or depending on where you are, it's included. But absolutely, it's not something that people have to give up when they make the decision to move into a retirement home. It is something that they can continue to enjoy or participate in as they want to. Lots of people form friendships, and we see, they have a couple cold beers while they're watching the game together, or, some ladies who have a wine and cheese event in their suite. It's just like it would be in your own home. You can continue to enjoy the things that you currently enjoy, and maybe even try some new cocktails at the cocktail hours.
Right. I think you had me at the wine cellar.
Right? I certainly had myself there. Yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea. I love that. I don't even have a wine cellar. Right?
Right.
So entertaining, socializing with your next door neighbors and the friends that you've made in the community. What about having your family or friends that do not live in the residence? So, coming in and social, how does that all work with, getting together for celebrating Johnny's graduation and grandma wants to host, or just get together with the family or with friends?
I think there's a couple things there that you can take advantage of. One is that, a retirement home is a person's individual home. So within their own suite, if they want to have guests over, of course they can have guests over. No different than if you lived in an apartment building and you wanted to have someone over for an afternoon visit or a dinner or to stay the night. I mean, that's at your discretion. It is your suite. You can do what you like. The other option, however, is that, sometimes we'll say, oh, I don't have a ton of room to entertain in my suite, or it's not as big as my house, so I don't host the big Christmas dinners anymore, the, baked cookies with the grandkids. The advantage of being in a retirement home, though, is that you have all of these huge spaces that are available for our residents and their families to enjoy. So for example, we've got, a number of our homes have big country kitchens, and you can rent out the country kitchen as a resident if you want to host Johnny's graduation party, or if you want to bake cookies with the grandkids, or you want to enjoy something that's a special family tradition to you. You want to host your friends there, and you want to do your soup exchange. No problem. We can continue to do those things. But the spaces within the retirement residence become an extension of your own home. They become places that you can use for whatever purpose. So depending on the style of retirement residence that you choose or that you live in, they have everything from movie theaters and games rooms and, private dining rooms where you can host a family meal or have us cook the family meal for you. They've got all kinds of common spaces that you can use to entertain family and friends and have them come in and visit. On the flip side, there are also spaces that you don't need to reserve. If there's an activity going on in the property that you're really enjoying and you want your friends to come and enjoy it as well, invite them into Zumba, or in for a movie, or in for one of the activities that are being hosted in the residence anyways. That's something that's not unique to Chartwell. We see a lot of the properties in the province offer this as a service. We want people to come in and continue to socialize with their friends and enjoy the spaces that we have to offer.
So basically, so independent living,
mm-hmm.
you have amenities galore.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to a party room, is what I heard, and do it yourself, cook. You've got a country kitchen, or you could actually have Chartwell's team members do the cooking for you. Mm-hmm. So basically you could get it catered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is a country kitchen for anyone like myself that doesn't know what that is?
I think that's a very good question, because I sometimes, forget that I've worked here for a very long time. And so I use words like that. So it's basically like a big kitchen space. It usually has some kind of, harvest table or a few tables set up in it, and then a big cooking space that residents can use. So it basically looks like your own kitchen at home, like a big kitchen,
mm-hmm.
where you can use it to do some cooking, because most of the time in retirement living, we're doing the cooking for our residents, but there's opportunities for people to still continue to enjoy the things they've always enjoyed. You love to bake. You want to bake on Saturdays in the country kitchen? Let me know. I will come and sample whatever you're baking.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned renting it out. What does that mean? Does that mean making note and sort of scheduling that you've got you request it for a certain time period? Like if you're moving out of a condo, you've got to request the elevator type thing?
Right. And every home operates that a little bit differently. So depending on the amenity spaces that are available within the property, depending on the social and activity calendar that they already have that's existing, and on the individual properties, some of them have a small charge for using the spaces. Some of them have a full menu of catering options that you can choose from. Some of them, it's just, you just need to reserve it. There's no charge. It really depends on the individual residents. All this to say, the spaces are available for our residents to enjoy, and by extension, their friends and families.
This is really, great information, because I'm just thinking, as one would explore, residences, different locations, they're all unique and diverse, offer something a little different. You'd want to make a list of the things that matter to you and that are most important, right? Like go in with that list to then determine, it's like buying anything. It's just even a car. It's, well, I like this, I like that. And in advance. So I wouldn't have even thought about, this country kitchen and the movie theater. Like, that's cool. If you're a movie buff and you enjoy movies with friends and family, that's what you like to do. I'd want to look for a place that offers that amenity, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we hit family and friends and alcohol. Tell me about pets. A lot of people, my mom, I just had a conversation with my brother about her coming for a visit. My brother just said, look, if you want her to stay longer, let her know to bring the little dog, like bring, our
Yeah.
little her fur baby. And he goes, because then she won't worry, she'll have her with her. And I was like, I didn't even think about it until he brought it up, because she doesn't want to leave, the little one for too long type thing. So it's, they're family, right? So they're also family. How does that work?
It's such a good question, because depressingly, one of the things that we actually hear is, my mom or dad or myself, I would consider moving to retirement living, but I've got an older pet and I'm kind of waiting for that pet to pass before I make any moves, because I'm so attached, or I can't go anywhere because I need my pet to come with me, and they are an extension of my family. Of course they are. I have a cat and dog. I would want my cat and dog to live with me, well, most of the time. But I think people don't realize that you can bring your pets to retirement living in most cases. Again, check with the individual residents. All of our Chartwell homes are pet friendly. So you can have your cat, you can have your dog. There's technically no size limit on the dogs, although I don't know that a Saint Bernard would be the best choice. But if you're in a townhome in a Chartwell residence and you have a big dog, that's okay. You can bring your pets. Lots of residents who have birds or fish or small animals, but cats and dogs most certainly are welcome. As long as residents are able to care for their animals, they can continue to care for their animals within their suite or their apartment. It's not a problem at all.
I love that. I had a meeting years and years and years ago. This is back in the day where, it was very corporate office, and I walked in, and that company allowed the team members to bring their cats or dogs in, and they had little pens, like baby fences, if you will, around their offices or their cubicles. And there was
Amazing.
a bed. I walked out of there so happy, because how do you not, when you see, a kitten or a dog or whatever, right? Those little spaces. So it is so important. My mom, like I said, wouldn't go anywhere without Mira type thing.
Mira.
So that's fantastic.
Well, and I think, sorry, Charlene, I think there's one piece I
ahead.
forgot to mention, and that is, some people don't have pets, but they still get so much joy out of spending time with an animal, right? Petting a dog, petting a cat, spending some time with that. So there's also the availability in a lot of properties of pet therapy, where you have visiting pet therapy companies that will come in with a dog or a cat, or sometimes, those little goats and things like that. That they can just enjoy some time with the animals in the residence. They don't have to bring their own animal. They can still enjoy some time with animals in the residence, and that's something you're not going to get if you're living independently at home with maybe some support services coming in. But this is a regular opportunity to interact with animals, should you so choose. The other question, the flip side of this I hear is, oh, well, what if my parent or myself, what if I'm allergic to pets and I don't want to be around a lot of animals? And what I would say is that in retirement, we have very, very strict cleaning protocols. And so there's never a concern with having sort of pets running around the home and affecting people with allergies. It is a very manageable situation where we're able to keep those who don't want to be interacting with pets away from them, but still enable people who do have a pet and want to have it there to live with them successfully.
That's fantastic. I hadn't thought about that, but there is the opposite side, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Clearly, I am pro animal, but anyhow, there's a little bit of a bias there. Here's something that we hear periodically is this idea that once you move into residence, you don't have the freedom to come and go. Like, you're in as you're in, you can't leave. Like, it's, which I can't imagine, but I'm not the expert, so that is something that we hear periodically.
Yeah, that you get locked in.
Yeah.
You can't leave. You can't leave once you're in. No, couldn't be further from the truth. Again, these are independent or independent supportive retirement residences. People are moving in because they want the socialization or they need the care and support services, but they're free to come and go as they please. We have a lot of residents who still drive or who enjoy going out with their friends or going to the local senior center or the mall or whatever it is that they do during the day that makes them happy. And so they're more than welcome to continue to do those things, and they come and go as they please. Couple of caveats to that. One is that we do generally have sort of a sign out program, not because we're, people need to tell us where they're going and what they're doing, those types of things, but for fire safety. We have to know how many people are in the building in the event of an emergency at any given time. So that's just a fire safety protocol that we have. And the second is that we do have residents who live with us who do have cognitive impairment or advanced cognitive impairment. And in those cases, those residents who are living in a secure section of a building or in a secure building altogether, the rules would be a little bit different in those scenarios, right? That's when we have people who are able to come and go with family or if they're escorted by staff, so that there's no risk of them leaving the premises
Wandering.
and then not
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to get back, right? So that becomes a safety thing. But those two pieces are purely a safety measure. Anyone else, I mean, really, they can come and go as they please. We have people who go on vacation. We have people who, go away for the weekend or go stay with family or just, like to be out and about. They still go and do things out in the community all day long and come back, and it's absolutely fine. There's no one's being locked in.
I think that's probably the biggest misconception about retirement living, is that you're not living.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The way like I said, we've had many conversations. I've learned so much, and I really, what it comes down to is you're in res, like university days. I keep going back to that, with major amenities. So you come, or you're in your apartment or your condo living, but you've got serious amenities. You do what you enjoy. You do what you always enjoyed.
Right.
But you have a lot of resources like right outside your front door, versus having to go farther for them, which I think is absolutely, you take away a lot of the burden of living independently, especially in Canada, which is snow removal and mowing lawn, like all of that sort of thing is gone. And just, it's the best of the best type thing. Like it's all the things that you want without major like you've taken a lot of responsibility off of an individual's shoulders.
Like, you enjoy all those tasks too, right? So I mean, if people would like to go outside and shovel the snow, they're welcome to do so. But we certainly, take away of those tasks for them. And I think the other piece, you hit the nail on the head, is that people continue living in retirement living. They're not coming in now prescribed to do things at certain times. It's very, very flexible. Our residents are the ones who help us figure out what's going to go on those activity calendars. It's based on what they want to do. They inform us when the menu is something that they like or that they don't like. They inform those choices, and they still have the flexibility to do what they want to do all day long. The added benefit is that should they need support at a moment's notice, if there's a fall, if there's a crisis, if something happens, we're right there. The support is right outside their door if they need it, when they need it, but they don't have to sort of go about their daily lives in this very prescribed fashion. It's very independent. The freedom of choice exists.
Okay, so I'm going to jump to another section. I do have a question I'll come back to, but speaking about support and care, I think there's confusion out there between retirement residents, retirement living communities, and long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
Could you clarify what's what?
Absolutely. There's huge confusion out there, and especially post-COVID, because during the pandemic, everyone was kind of lumped into one bucket in the media, and we all started to get swirled together, and everything became a nursing home. And what's a nursing home or long-term care versus retirement living? So at the very basic level, there is a big difference between the two. Long-term care is reserved for people who require acute nursing care. It's a much higher acuity level of resident who's living there. There's someone who requires 24-hour support. And long-term care itself is governed by the individual provinces. So it's a public system. There's a public wait list that you need to apply for. You need to qualify for long-term care. You need to get onto the wait list. And then once you are accepted, you wait in queue and you're able to go to a residence. The fees are set by the government, so there's no control with the private organizations that might own a long-term care. Everything is established by the provincial governments. So they control the fees, they control the wait list, they control the care that's provided in there. Now, long-term care has a whole range of options again. So you might have someone who has lesser care needs, you might have someone who has very advanced care needs, but it is a public system. So that's sort of the public side of things. Retirement living is on the private side of things, or private pay. So individuals pay for the services and the suites within retirement living, depending on what they need, the size of their suite, the type of care they're requiring, the type of amenities that are available. The price can vary significantly from city to city or home to home. Just depends on what someone is interested in and what they need. There's a big misconception out there that because it's retirement living and we think of, people who are very active or independent, that we don't do care, which could also not be further from the truth. The truth is that retirement living can actually provide up to, in some cases, end-of-life care, depending on the resident, as long as they are safe to continue living in the environment and we're able to provide the supportive services to help them with their daily care needs. They can stay with us. They don't ever have to make a move. So this is something that not a lot of people realize. There's also a whole range of services that are available in retirement living. So you have independent supportive, which is a little bit of assistance every day, maybe meals and medication support, things like that. There's assisted living, which is full assistance with the physical side of things. So people who might need some help with their ambulatory skills or with toileting or bathing, grooming, dressing, assistance with meals, assistance with just sort of their activities of daily living can all be provided in an assisted living floor or home. And there's memory living. And memory living is, and memory care, right? These are designed for people with cognitive impairment. So you can have a resident who has, any number of forms of dementia who can thrive in a memory living or a memory care setting in retirement living. It doesn't always necessitate a move to long-term care. So those are the big differences, right? Retirement living can accommodate a wide range of services. It's in the private side of things. So generally there's no wait list, or if there is, it's very small. The homes control their individual wait lists and the fees. And then on the long-term care side of things, it's a little more clinical. It is an acute care nursing setting, and that is run by our provincial governments.
Got it. So opportunities for couples, partners. Let's say there's, plenty of our members are, married 30, 40 years type thing. And one has become a caregiver for the other. Yeah. You mentioned, memory care. We see a lot of that. Unfortunately, Alzheimer's, dementia. I have a few people close to me. This is what's happening in their families. And the care is being provided by, predominantly the one spouse. But the progression reaches a point where it becomes debilitating for that caregiving family member, right? But they don't want to be separated. So then there's the worry of, no, I'll continue to care for him, for example, and they sink their heels in to their detriment of their health and mental well-being. So, with a situation like that, and I'm sure you see it often. How does that work, right? And you mentioned suites, you mentioned townhouses. I wanted to get into that as well. Size, what are we looking like? What is that all about, type thing? So, couples, partners, differing needs, segueing into
care. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that you hit on something very important with couples, and this is something that we see all the time, is that one person becomes ill or their care needs change, and the other person assumes the role of caregiver, which is nice, but it can absolutely take a toll on that individual's health. And there's two things that I see happen with that. One is the caregiver burnout, if you will, or the effect that it has on the spouse who's providing the care for the other, and in fact can lead to a decline in their own health faster than perhaps would have otherwise been realized. The second, though, is that you have someone who's been, a couple that's been married for 30, 40, 50 years. That foundation is based on a romantic relationship. And when you shift from being a couple to one person caring for the other, that changes the relationship dynamic a little bit. And it can be sad to see them no longer enjoying each other's company as a couple, but becoming dependent on one another as caregivers only. And so you see a little bit of a breakdown in that side of the relationship, which is really unfortunate. So what I love about retirement living is that our couples are able to stay together, and we take on the burden of caregiving. Not that I shouldn't say burden, it's never a burden. We take on the caregiving piece of it so that couples can be couples and they can just enjoy each other's company, back in that sort of romantic side of why they were together in the first place. So I love that piece of it. We do see a lot of people that join us for different reasons, because one person has a physical need, one person has a cognitive need. Sometimes you get a combination of both. So depending on the situation, our health and wellness managers, our nurses, would sit down and determine where people are best suited to live, whether it's in assisted living or in an independent townhome, things like that. And then they can help them put together a plan of care that suits both people. And in most cases, they're able to stay together. Now, in some cases, we do see this where they want to live in the same residence, but they don't want to live in the same suite because one person's needs are perhaps not conducive to the others. So you mentioned dementia, and this is something that we do see where one person, starts to exhibit some different signs with their dementia. It can be very taxing for the other individual. And so in those cases, I've seen lots and lots of examples where one person moves to memory living and the other spouse moves into our independent supportive living. They're able to spend tons of time together during the day, but then when those routines or pieces of care that are sort of taxing on the one individual come into play, they can both have their separate suites and get a good night's sleep and some peace and quiet. So that can absolutely happen.
Very customizable to the individuals, to the actual, whether it's couples or individuals. Everything
Absolutely.
is very customized.
Yeah,
I love that. And so you mentioned. So tell me about, you mentioned suites. And I guess they might vary in townhomes. What does a suite look like or entail? Is there a little kitchenette? Is it like I can't think of the word when you go to Mexico and it's got a little kitchen, not a utility. I can't think of the word right now, but what does a suite entail? Is it one bedroom? Is it bachelor? Is it
all of the above? So, so the complicated thing about retirement living, it's like buying a house, right? You can select all the filters that you want. You want 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. What would you like? Retirement living in general, there's usually a few options, and I'm going to speak very broadly, not just as a Chartwell representative, but just sort of industry wide. Typically, you'll see anything from a studio, a 1 bedroom, a 1+ den, a 2 bedroom, maybe a 2+ den. Usually you don't get much bigger than a 2 bedroom, but a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom suite is a significant size apartment, if you will. There are in seniors apartments and townhomes, and then there are suites. So usually an apartment or a townhome is for independent living. So residents that are still doing their own cooking because they have a full kitchen, or maybe some of their own cooking. They're usually much more autonomous. They're doing their own thing. They just want that added level of there's support available if they need it. but they're probably not using a lot of care services at the moment. So these we have got townhomes, we've got little cottages, we've got apartments that fit into this style. Not every residence has every style of living. It just depends on the individual residence. If you move over to sort of the traditional retirement home suites, you have the studios, the 1 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms. Generally, these have a kitchenette. So you would have a small fridge or a microwave and a sink and some cupboard space, but usually not cooking facilities or dishwashers, washer dryers, things like that. That's usually more in the independent living side, because generally when people are moving into the suites, we're providing 3 meals a day and snacks and doing things like that. But you still need to have a fridge in your room if you're drinking white wine. You have to have somewhere to keep that, right? And some snacks in the cupboard.
What I was thinking was, do these suites, can a resident bring in a microwave? Because I remember when I lived in residence in university, you could rent the fridge for Coca-Cola.
Sure.
And it, I actually did have a wee little microwave, which honestly was predominantly used for making popcorn. It was, or heating up water for Mr. Noodles, which is what I survived on in university. Anyone else? I don't know, raise a hand if that sounds familiar, right? So can that also be the case with the suites?
Yes.
So that okay.
Yeah, it's generally, we most of our homes provide a microwave with the suite and a fridge, and then in some cases you have people who want to have a toaster. They like to make their own breakfast, or small things like that. Generally not sort of hot plates and stovetops, but you'll see small appliances, toasters and electric kettles and coffee makers and microwaves
making
for
tea
sure.
or whatever. Got it. Okay. We have, if you can believe it, 4 minutes left.
What?
So I want to talk about affordability, because that's a big one. They are expensive. Are you crazy? What are you thinking? Not for me.
Yeah.
But I've heard customizing. I've heard there's variety, there's options. So I'm suspecting we're going to hear similar with regards to affordability, but it's a huge question, right? Not only for the people like this, the resident himself, herself, but the adult children, their family members. Like, this is a big question mark when it comes to planning and fulfilling mom and dad's wishes, and making sure that they get everything that they need and then some. So talk to us about, dollars and cents, I guess.
Dollars and cents. It's probably the number one question that we get, right? How much does it cost? And oh my gosh, I could never afford that. And so when you tell someone that the cost of retirement living can vary from, $2,000 to $8,000 a month, depending on where they're living. So just like real estate, it's more expensive to buy in Vancouver than it is to buy in Windsor. It depends on where they're living, the type of suite that they are choosing, the type of care that they're receiving. All of those factors come into play. So it's really important to have a conversation with the retirement homes that you're interested in, and speak to their sales consultants and figure out what the cost is that you're looking at. The second part that people tend to forget about is that when you move to retirement living, you're no longer living in your home. You're selling the home, and this sale of homes can be a huge opportunity to fund retirement living. In a lot of cases, people are selling their homes for a lot more than they paid for them when they moved in 30, 40 years ago. And in some cases, they're just using the interest realized to offset the cost of retirement living. But that's why it's so important that you sit down with your financial planner or advisor and figure out a plan that's going to make sense for you to invest the proceeds from the sale of the home to cover the cost of retirement living. And remember too that you no longer have a whole bunch of monthly costs that are associated with living at home. You're no longer buying groceries or paying for home insurance or paying for, landscaping companies. You're not paying property taxes anymore. All of these things that add up over the course of time with owning a home, you don't have to worry about anymore. And so when we compare the actual cost of maintaining a home and bringing in care to retirement living, it's amazing how quickly people realize just how affordable of an option this is. The other piece.
You make a good point. Sorry, I'm just thinking property taxes and paying someone to landscape or remove the snow in the winter because you reach a certain,
Right.
I don't even want to do it now type thing. But these are added costs. These are added, budget items each month, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to
The cost
definitely
of
take that
home
into
maintenance.
consideration.
You no longer have to think about, oh my gosh, I'm saving up because I'm going to have to replace my roof in 10 years and I have to buy my annual flowers and all of those things.
The furnace blows.
Exactly. It all
Yeah.
adds up for sure. And the other piece too is that there's a number of government programs that are available or tax credits that are available that you can research depending on the province that you live in. You can find all that information actually on our website. There's a link to our affordability section, and you can see what some of the credits are that are available for you to take advantage of. But not to be overlooked for sure, because those things can help contribute to funding retirement living as well.
Fantastic. We are in the Q&A section, but I actually have really quickly one more question. I heard that we can test out a resident. Like we can, someone who might be interested can actually come and stay in a suite or whatever and kind of get a feel for it. Is that true?
You heard correctly. So I don't know about you, but I wouldn't buy a car without test driving it. And this is not a car. This is a way bigger decision. Moving into a retirement residence has to be the right fit. This is not something that it's not an easy decision. It is an emotional decision, and it's something that you want to make sure that you're doing once and you're really happy with your choice. So you can absolutely come and try it out. If there's a home in your area that you're interested in, or for a loved one that you're interested in, highly recommend that you reach out to them directly and ask about their short stay options. Sometimes people can come in and try it for a weekend. Sometimes they can come in and try it for a few weeks, and there's a fee associated with that. But it gives people a good opportunity to experience life in the residence before they make that big commitment.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So they could try different residents. Let's say there's a few in their general proximity type thing. Yeah. They could go and get a feel for it, because it's not just it's the environment, it's the energy, right?
Yes.
Yes. Like the vibe, so important as well.
It's funny because when we asked people, we did a panel a couple of years ago, and we spoke to different residents and their families, and we asked them, what made you choose the residence that you ultimately ended up moving into? And the answer was the same across the board. It just felt right. I couldn't put my finger on it. It just felt right. And so it has to feel right. And you'll know when you are in that setting, when you're in that space, if it feels good to you. So highly encourage people to try it out.
It makes sense, right? Because you have the practical, logical requirements that specific to each individual. And let's say, you've got 10 properties that offer all of it. What does it come down to? It's the emotion. Yes. It's the feeling, right? Like you can't control it. It just happens. Like walking into, whatever, the first home when you purchase a home or purchase a car, like there's just something that at the end of the day, it ends up becoming a very emotional, decision, really. That's the deal breaker, right? Yeah. So it makes sense. What a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the questions that I've accumulated. from our members and from many conversations. We do have a question from one of our attendees, and I invite anyone, if you've got questions or comments, please share in the chat. But Nicole Blay, her question is, what are the fees for additional care, such as memory care?
Yeah, fantastic question. Again, I'm going to be very generic and say that it varies by residence, and it's going to depend on the area that you live in as well. Typically, it's higher than the regular independent supportive living, but it includes a whole lot more. So I would encourage you to reach out at Chartwell. Fees for memory living generally around $5,000 a month is probably a reasonable figure, but don't quote me, because some homes are going to be a little more and some might be a little bit less.
So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules this afternoon to join us. We're thrilled to have you. Again, chartwell.com or info@amintro.com for any feedback, further information. And Amanda and I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you for stopping by. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.